way, and we're glad for that. I bet you there's a farmer or two out there that is happy to see the sunshine this morning, too. Come about the middle of July, they'll be saying, oh, boy, we need the rain.
Yeah, that's about right.
Right now, maybe not as much, but you always need the rain to go with the sunshine. You got to have the perfect mix if you're out there in the fields. Our visit this morning with Stephen Campbell and the folks from Penn State Extension, presented by Marcus and Mack, voted the best law firm and best personal injury lawyer 4 years in a row in the Best of Indiana County contest. Visit them online at marcusandmack.com. And, well, it's good to have you back in the studio with us.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back. I was like, well, I need to get back in with Todd and the crew up here, and we can pick something else we could talk about.
Well, you picked out an interesting topic, farm research.
Yes.
Wow. Where do we go with something like that?
So I was starting to think, we have this really great article written by one of our educators down out of Lancaster County about how to conduct on-farm research, first and foremost, which is, we've got a 10-step process here on, what to do and how to do it. Start off, I'd say first and foremost, with picking a research question that you want to try out. Maybe it's just as choosing a yes or no answer for that fact. So, for example, does a crimson clover give me more nitrogen for my following corn crop? Which it's just an example, but as a legume, it should, in theory, give you a little bit more nitrogen credit there to be able to use for your next cash crop. So trying something out like that, or even maybe a variety of some sort with, if you're using some sort of forage for your livestock feed, maybe we tried this different type of orchard grass versus this variety of orchard grass. Which one yields better? Those are just some simple things to start out with, and then developing that hypothesis that stems directly from that question and what we're able to use and define with actual data and the end goal of the experiment. So, I think that this is what it's going to produce, and with this amount of nitrogen credit, if we're using that legume and crimson clover example for that cash crop, and then come back, and that's what we're going to test at the end. Did it answer that hypothesis? So there's lots of different ways to go about this, and then collecting the data, and that's where you can involve myself. To be able to come out on those farm visits. If you're, researching, I know there are a couple farmers in the county that are right now researching some stuff on their own. Oh, yeah. Have me come out and we can help you walk through that process. Or if you just need to talk out some sort of research question and need my assistance, we can be able to do that too.
Yeah, it's interesting because it really does point out that farmers are really scientists.
Yes. I mean, they're always playing with something. It's, no matter what, I went on a farm last year up in Butler County. This guy, he really likes to play a lot with some different things. And he was using they call it a relay cropping system. So he ended up planting a little bit of wheat and had that going. And then he planted soybeans into it in the spring. And he said, to start out with, it really helped with, deflecting some of the deer away from munching on some of the soybean crop. So that was kind of an interesting little experiment that he had conducted. He didn't continue that this year, but he just wanted to try it out and something different. You see a lot of these things out east that they're able to do where we're not maybe as able to do them here in Western Pennsylvania.
The data compilation aspect of it is really fascinating now, too, because it is, on the one hand, so very, very easy to get access to information that it would have taken months or years to get in the past, but now it's right there and available to you. At the same time, it can be overwhelming because what works in one area might not work in another area.
Yeah, exactly. And, and that's why we're also here. If you find some sort of research paper and you're a little bit confused by it, reach out to us. That's what we're here for. We're able to try to make that data, a little bit more digestible is how I like to say it. So it's like candy for a cow, but for us, it's, trying to adjust our practices to be able to use those. So that's something that we really like to be able to do and help those farmers out and maybe adjust some practices or add something to it.
Does candy for a cow consist of alfalfa in some form or another?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That or corn silage, depending on the quality. So
The corn silage has the sweetness factor going there a little bit more than the alfalfa. Yeah, that's just daily staple there. That's boring to a cow.
Yeah.
But you throw a little corn silage in there, now you're talking.
Yeah.
Now
And
you're
a,
talking.
and a lot of people have been going away from alfalfa. So that's one of our things we're going to discuss next week at our team retreat with our forage specialists, that the shift away from alfalfa, just because of the management practices and the intensity that goes into that. So
that's interesting because you're talking alfalfa there, but when you're thinking about haylage and the shift from the old square bales that I used to toss around and into now it's almost all round bales.
Yes.
And the round bales have a whole different composition
Yeah.
because you're not waiting for hay to dry. Now you're rolling it up right away and storing it that way. That's I'm sure a lot of research goes into how best to do that.
Yeah, and we just actually had that workshop here. What was it? No, it would have been 2 Saturdays ago, and up in Brush Valley, we had a workshop on baleage and haylage, and it was a small group, but very interested in some of the findings that we've had, and talking about forage quality and which species to be able to use in some of those baleage and haylage instances. So it's really cool to even talk about some of the plastic that you're able to use, and don't use duct tape if you're gonna patch up something that's wrapped up. Duct tape is very porous. You need to have some sort of tape that is recommended for silage or baleage use. So usually a lot of people, it seemed like, were ordering it online out of Ohio. Because it wasn't able to be found really around here. So, yeah, that's my tip for the day. Don't use duct tape if you've got a hole in your plastic for your baleage.
There you go. There you go. Well, when you say that, what springs into my mind is mold.
Yeah.
When you have a wet product that you're now wrapping up in plastic, mold has to become an issue. And how harmful could that be to the animals who are eating it? I know that they can process it.
Yeah, so it just depends, again, on some of the bacteria that is there, and that's why we want to prevent any oxidation from getting in there to create some of those bad bacteria, as well as the mold that could happen on the surface, because once that happens, then you've got a bad bale, and it's unusable unless you really finagle with it and take some forage quality test with it and see if it's actually able to be fed or not. And at that point, it's probably even a little bit too late by the time you get your results back. So it's probably just best to throw that out.
Cow's going to eat it anyway.
It depends on the cow.
yeah. Some cows they'll just eat anything.
Yeah.
But it all comes down to farm research and the various different aspects of what that can be. I'm interested as well in sheep.
Yeah.
Which right now in our area, there are a ton of sheep out there. People are keeping their sheep, and especially in the springtime when they get out and they get the fresh grass.
Yep.
It's the same way with cows too. When they get out of the barn for the first time after they spend a winter cooped up, and they get their first shot at new grass and everything. You have to really watch what it is that they're getting into their bellies, because that can make them really, really sick.
Yeah, and even as a sheep producer myself, so like I have sheep at home, just watching some of those, what they're grazing, and how close they're grazing, and especially with some of our lambs, you got to watch some of the Clostridia that could potentially get in there from the soil. Because that could end up giving a little bit of the runs. So that's one of the things that I like to keep an eye on, especially with the little lambs, because they can become a little bit more susceptible to it early on in their livelihood. Here in Western Pennsylvania, that's kind of common though with a lot of our soils. So.
Yeah, that's interesting because Dr. Pohl, people who watch Dr. Pohl, he's in Michigan, and he's always talking about the lack of selenium in the soil there.
Yeah.
We evidently don't have that problem as much here in PA.
Not as much. I still am a little bit cautious, though. It's been something my grandpa's passed down to me. We still give a little bit of a selenium shot along with their Clostridium perfringens shot, so that it's like a C&D toxoid that can cause white muscle disease. So that's another thing that I like to follow up with our lamb program, even at home.
Yeah.
So
When you are talking research and the availability of you and the rest of the Penn State team, really, farmers, you really want to take advantage of everything that you have out there. It's such a hard business to be in, and it really is an information society, and there's more information there now than ever before. So for you to go and to visit with farmers and answer their questions. Do you ever get together in really group forum sessions? You'd have mentioned. So
So we do some workshops. I'm actually going to do a field day here this summer with corn and soybeans and talk a little bit about our Sentinel monitoring program that we run with the Pennsylvania Soybean Board, that they fund some of our research to be able to go out and collect some of this data with soybeans. But we go out, we'll look at some of the pests that are there, some of the weed pressure, and a few different other, like insects, and talk a little bit about what we're seeing in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, actually, in that whole protocol, there's several states that are involved. We have the most significant data source, and some of the other states are a little bit jealous about our enthusiasm in some of the Sentinel monitoring. But I'll be able to, we'll walk through that. We'll have our specialists down to talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about a herbicide demo that I'm going to set up for corn and soybeans here and sometime in late July. So that'll be kind of cool to be able to look at several different programs that our weed scientists have put together, to be able to use those and maybe adjust your program.
There you go. He's Stephen Campbell, Penn State Extension. You want to take advantage of the services that the Extension offers, and Stephen can bring especially to you. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, they've got some research that they'd like to get involved in or are involved in and need your help, what should they do?
Yeah, they can give me an email. So scampbell, CAMPBELL at psu.edu, or you can give me a call at 724-602-9967. And may I also add, Penn State is currently hiring here out of the Indiana office, if it hasn't been said before, for a county agent. So it would assist our agronomy team as well as our hort team and our livestock team. And you only need a bachelor's degree. So you can look at that on the Penn State HR website, and it should be a county agent. It could be placed here in Indiana, Cambria, or Armstrong County. And they have another one that is out of Clearfield County, but can be placed in Clearfield, Jefferson, or Clarion County.
Nice.
So
nice. Excellent. So an employment opportunity too.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Glad I could be able to stop in today.
Good time of the year, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's Indiana in the morning, and it's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com. Coming up, Fox News, top of the hour, a couple of moments away from now. Josh Whittison in our WCCS newsroom. Clint Weimer from the Marion Center School District will be joining us in our next half hour.
At First Commonwealth Bank, we know that financial confidence begins with the right account for the way you manage your money. All of our checking accounts are packed with online tools, including Credit Score Manager with 24/7 access to your credit report. And our debit cards are eligible for MasterCard ID theft protection. Find the best checking account for you at fcbanking.com. First Commonwealth Bank. Time to be first. Member FDIC.
Attention seniors of Indiana County. Mark your calendars for a day of the Senior Summit, brought to you by District Attorney Robert Manzi and the Indiana County Elder Abuse Task Force. Join them on Wednesday, May 13th from 8 to noon at the YMCA of Indiana County. Representatives from area agencies will be on hand to discuss vital topics like scam prevention and awareness, senior services, cybersecurity, property